Um, so my name's Gavin Stern. I'm editor-in-chief here at AAMI. And I'd like to welcome everyone to AAMI's Roundtable on Diversity in Healthcare Technology Management, or HTM. Today's panelists come from lots of different backgrounds and job titles. My hope for today's discussion is we can learn more about your experiences, as well as how the HTM field can be even more promising and more inclusive for the next generation. I'll be moderating today's discussion. I have some questions prepared for the group that I sent you ahead of time. But really, I'd love for this to be an open discussion, so don't feel like you have to wait for me to bring up something or even to ask each other questions. Video is going to be a component of today's roundtable, so I ask that you please keep your cameras on and mute yourself when you are speaking. So let's go ahead and start off with some very brief introductions. Just your name and your job title, please. Reggie, can we start with you?
We sure can. My name is Reginald Burrs. I am a recent retiree from the United States Army as a healthcare technology manager, and I am currently a contractor working for Capital I, working for United States Army currently.
And Donna, would you like to go next?
Excuse me, I'm Donna Dyer. I'm the Senior Director of Healthcare Technology Management at GE Healthcare.
And Sheldon?
Yeah, Sheldon Freeman. I am the Regional Director for the West for TriMedics.
And Renee?
Hi, everyone. My name is Renee Gordon. I am one of the interns at Bay State Medical Center. I'm part of the Yukon Clinical Engineering Program.
And Colleen?
Hi, my name is Colleen Haugen-Ortiz. I am the HTM Quality Specialist for GE Healthcare.
And Priya? Oh, Priya, I think you're still muted.
Oh, can you hear me okay now?
Loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Priyanka Upendra. I go by Priya. I have been a compliance and quality director, program director at Banner Health, and a compliance manager at Intermountain, and several clinical engineering roles in the Stanford enterprise. Right now, I am in transition. I'll talk more about that as we get into the questions, and looking forward to my next role later on in June.
Thanks, Priya. And I think last we have Fernanda.
Hi, my name is Fernanda. I am currently a BMed over at Providence East with Tenet Health.
Thanks. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to kick it off with the first question. So what's and this is for the whole group. Can you tell us a bit? What's your journey been to healthcare technology management?
I guess I'll go ahead and start. I joined the Army in 1993 as a biomedical equipment specialist. So I've been trained through the Department of Defense Biomedical Equipment Training School in Aurora, Colorado, which is currently in San Antonio, Texas right now, and eventually moved on into management, attending the United States Army Healthcare Technicians Management course.
Okay, I guess I'll go second. My journey into HTM began in 2010. I was working as an intern within the bioengineering department at Stanford and got introduced to the director over at the clinical engineering department at the hospital. So I worked as an unpaid intern for a year and a half just to learn what the job entails, and then was hired full-time. Since then, I've been in several technical and managerial roles, and most recently as a compliance program director at Banner Health based out of Phoenix in Arizona.
Hey, my name's Sheldon, as you know. I started my career with GE Healthcare, actually. in programs. So I don't know if they still have that today, Donna. But we started in sales, and I just worked my way through the sales ranks, and then I switched over to operations and been working my way through that. Currently now with TriMedics.
Well, my name is Colleen, and I started off as a biomedical equipment technician with the U.S. Army in 2014. And then right out of the Army, I joined with GE Healthcare and have worked my way up through the ranks that way.
All right, the last three of us are looking at each other. I guess I'll go next. So I started as a biomed 26 years ago. Half of my life I've been in the industry. I started as a biomed intern working for a company called National MD. And that company was acquired in 1997 by GE Healthcare. And so I too have been working kind of my way up since then. So I started as an intern, worked as a biomed site leader, and then field engineer, and then just took different roles in quality, in working with our customers in consulting manners, just a bunch of different jobs to kind of get where I am at today.
I started doing an internship with Airmark through school. In 2014, I worked for Airmark for 4 years. I did field service, and working field service, I landed a senior site lead position in Maryland. I did that for 2.5 years. I finished my bachelor's in business management, and I'm still with TriMedics. I took a job in New Mexico for about 9 months, and then now I'm with Tenet Health.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah, okay. So I was introduced to HTM in my undergrad. I had a class in clinical engineering, and it kind of piqued my interest. So then I volunteered at the VA. Lasted only about 2 months because COVID happened. And then during that time, I applied for the clinical engineering program, and I was placed at Basic Health, which is very nice. And I've been here since September, and it's going very well.
I said, sorry about that. Go ahead and move on to the next question if everyone's on with this one. So what are ways that HTM employers could encourage more diversity in this field?
So I have recently decided to go back to school, and I have been taking this ethics class. And the one thing that this ethics class has been kind of touching on is trying to look at things from other people's perspectives and points of views, and kind of understanding different, taking the interest in other cultures and things of that nature. And I feel like that is something that goes across all, doesn't matter what job, but being able to understand other cultures and other perspectives, and being able to view other people in their beliefs and their values, and how those values can strengthen your company as well. So I think that is one thing that HTM employers should look at, is the fact that bringing in other cultures and other values can strengthen your company and create a more diverse environment.
I can go next. This is Priya. Really agree with what Colleen said. I think within HTM, being part of health systems or even working in service organizations, the community and the patients that we serve come from various backgrounds of life. While that diversity is actually beneficial to conduct quality clinical research and treatment plans, for us in HTM, it also brings about a range of issues that impact care delivery services because of the diversity. So differences in culture, behavior, work habits, communication, belief systems, education, language, all of that have actually posed as challenges, not just to nursing and physicians, but also to other healthcare workers, including HTM. Being in, I came from India to the United States a decade ago, and one of the biggest culture shocks for me was how we address each other respectfully. And in India, it's a much different culture where young professionals are actually hesitant to speak out their mind and give their opinions to more seasoned professionals. Whereas here in the United States, that's actually encouraged. However, what I've noticed is huge gaps around diversity and inclusion, mainly due to education and training, is how team members can actually talk to each other when they have difference of opinions. And one of my focus areas at work has actually been to develop a workforce that is mindful of culture, competency, skills, gender, age, as well as race and sexual orientation and beliefs when we interact with each other despite having a difference of opinion. So I think that is an area where HTM can really focus on, and also be mindful of the implicit bias where individual responses are biased based on prior experiences.
I think from my perspective, I think we got to start with ourselves, right? So I lead the diversity conversations for TriMedics, myself and our CEO. We lead those conversations. And I think, we talk around, and this is a good topic. It's a great topic that diversity is the new thing that we discuss. But at the end of the day, you got to set yourself some goals, right? And those goals have to start with you. So you have to determine where you lack. What don't I like about a different culture? Or and maybe it's because you don't know, right? You got to start there. You got to start within yourself and then educate out. Right? We can't use the conversation of, hey, with diversity, we're having a diversity conversation and it doesn't go anywhere, right? What's the end goal? What are we trying to get to? And once we realize that, we start with ourselves and then we work forward. And I think, in healthcare, I've come a long way since, I think it was 2000, I think is when I started. And yeah, I've seen the buddy system happen. I've seen lots of transitions happen all around people that look like me, right? I've watched it and I see how it works, right? It's those cultures that are within our business, which are still embedded in our business. They need to be, not in a negative way, but they need to be called out, not talked around. And I think if we start there, that begins the progress.
Yeah, I would tend to agree that you definitely got to have the conversations about the tough topics. And I don't know if Colleen remembers, but the military is very, very pointed in making you have conversations. So they're getting away from the PowerPoint presentations and getting to a little bit more of the small groups to facilitate conversations, and not necessarily being preached to you from PowerPoints, but forcing you to have conversations. And I'm actually pleasantly pleased to see the number of women in the group, because the Army and the technical fields are very male dominated. So right now, out of for the management, I'm a retired warrant officer. So it's 89 of us in the military. It's 2 of those are women. And right now, we just now announced our first female consultant to the Surgeon General. So she's one of the 2. She's at the top, and then we have one in the lower ranks of the warrant officer corps. But we purposely try to go recruit women into the career field to kind of like you said, spread out the diversity, get different perspectives on different topics. It's just you gotta have that to build a functioning team.
I think that's a fantastic point, and I'd like to add on to that too. I do think that this needs to be a concerted effort. to go out and to recruit people of diverse backgrounds. And some of you know that I got, the reason I'm in this field is because I got a scholarship for a woman going into a non-traditional role. And that was 26 years ago. Like, I think we could still consider this a non-traditional role, but that was a very, like a very focused program with a goal to get women in these types of roles. And I would like to see us be more aggressive. We're already having a problem in the HTM industry with just people in general, right? Like the availability of people in general. We certainly don't want people excluding themselves, right? Or not, we've got to be more welcoming than that. And we've got to kind of show people a path where they can learn more and get involved and hopefully become an HTM.
It's funny you say that. You joined the program because it was a non-traditional field for us, and it was exactly the same thing for me, where I got more aid because it was non-traditional for women. And even then, I was still the only girl that graduated in my class. And this is the shop that I'm currently in is the first shop that I work with another tech that's also a female. So we're getting there.
Yeah, one of the managers that works for me, she's got some tenure behind her, and she's a senior manager. She works for me really good, and she talks a lot about that too. And obviously, I'll tell you, the reason that I'm here is because Danielle gave me an invite, right? And there's somebody there that I'm sure, I don't know if all of you know Danielle or not, but I think she worked her way through the ranks. I believe so as well.
So and there's really not a lot of females in my department. I think there's maybe like 3 of us in total. But in my program, there are a lot more females than males, which is very nice to see that more females are getting into HTM. In terms of what employers can do, I think it's very important to recruit younger people, like let them know that HTM is a field and it does exist. And ways to go around it, right? Like certification versus going to college, or how can you get more involved, shadowing opportunities and stuff like that. I think that's very important, and not just target college students, but high school, so they know from a very younger age that these career fields exist.
I'll have to agree with you. I never knew what biomed was until I couldn't make up my mind with school and what I wanted to do. And I sat at a class before I even joined the program, and I took interest in it. And even now, I think there's not a lot of young professionals in this field. And I know firsthand that we get doubted a lot, where for me, it always happens. It never fails. I'm asked if I'm the secretary or if they can speak to one of the guys. And it's the thing that I have to kind of get used to, or I've gotten used to. And you have to work like 3 times harder to build the trust that a guy wouldn't have to do. And it's really frustrating. And I wish there was like a solution to that. And I feel that maybe in this current department that I'm with, there's an older technician, and she's a female, and I feel that it might cross a little bit better as far as the boundaries that I've had, where I'm the only girl, I'm the only young girl female in the shop. So I can see that. I think it's something that we definitely need to work on.
I agree with Fernanda. When I started as an intern and then worked as a BMed, I was the only female colleague in the shop. But I was fortunate to have professionals that were retiring that were very open to pass on the skills and train me at that time. However, as I moved into leadership roles as well, I was really the only female leader in a team of 30 or 40 other leaders at big health systems. So a lot of times going into meetings, other colleagues mistook me as an administrative professional or a note taker. And in fact, one of my first supply chain meetings with an organization, I was actually asked to take notes. But somehow I just was jovial and brushed it aside and asked them to call an admin assistant or something. Not that that's not okay, but a lot of times, female colleagues do get mistaken for that, or they don't trust you to repair the equipment that you are, or walking around with toolboxes and all that. And there's a lot of unconscious bias around it. In fact, even working in my most recent job, it was always really hard to enforce standards and policies and procedures, being the only female leader working as a compliance professional, because not a whole lot of people take you seriously. And in some cases, there were even some comments made that, certain leaders hired me as a director because they really wanted a female presence there. So I think we need to be more aggressive about the gender disparity and also addressing that in a respectful manner. At the same time, there's a lot of issues even with ageism. I see a lot of young professionals attracted to the field because of job security, places where they can live or move to and all that. But we still have so many seasoned professionals that plainly do not trust the young professional because of age. So there's a lot of bias with that, where there are certain comments made like, hey, you're young, you're just, bringing in fresh ideas. This is how we've always done it, and this is what works. So I think as within HTM, if we can have a more strategic initiatives with direct and more aggressive tactics on how to address these differences, at the same time educate people that yes, even if you're young, you do bring a lot of skills. And at the same time, whether it's male or female or even a young professional, taking up orphan projects or risky projects and then proving it with your work, that will actually speak for your work rather than pursuing it with a conversation, if you will.
I know when I started, my first site out of the Army, I was the first one hired in 5 years. And I was in a shop of pretty much everyone was about to retire. And I come in and they all look at me like unsure what to do with me. They're like, oh, we have a female in the shop. She's really young and a little bit girly. So I had a learning curve, but one thing that I had to do to prove myself was to be willing to learn from them. The fact that they're about to retire and I'm, pretty fresh in the field, and, I want to take all the knowledge I can from them, because when they're gone, I have no one else to learn from. Who am I going to learn from? So I think that was one way that I proved myself to them, was I was always willing to help, always willing to jump in and, rip something apart if I needed to. Also, when they joke around, just let it slide, not take it too seriously, because that was one thing that I think kind of let them respect me a little bit more in that sense. It definitely was a learning curve trying to come in, and then, we would sit there and compare tools and stuff like that, because being a woman, one thing that I tell new women techs coming in, anything with torque or ratcheting is your best friend. Because the last thing I was going to do was ask one of my male counterparts, hey, I can't unscrew this screw, it's too tight. So, I wanted to be able to prove myself in a sense of, I can do it. I don't need to ask you for help. I got this. So, just being ready to come into a male-dominated field for sure, and not coming in with this, I'm going to come take over mindset, but learn from them and be one of them as much as you can, in a sense.
Okay, I know I think we touched on this a little bit, but my next question is have you faced challenges or obstacles? How have you overcome them, and what can others do to help as well?
I can go first. I do have a more recent experience with what I'm going through. I think with, related to diversity and inclusion as well, we need employers to be open-minded to hire immigrants. Not to get into the controversial side of things, but we do have a lot of biomedical engineering professionals that are from outside of the United States. But most employers do not want to go through the immigration sponsorship processes. And a lot of employers just don't want to pay up for sponsoring an immigrant. Although it's not too expensive to do that, there's a lot of hesitation when hiring immigrants because of all the paperwork involved. In my experience, I've had 3 employers actually who are very willing to, go through the paperwork and sponsor me, and just ran into issues and basically worked in silos with legal and attorneys and human resources. That was very discouraging, almost to the point where, a month ago, I was almost going to get deported back to India because of not having a work authorization and not being able to stay in the country. So I think one of the biggest obstacles for me was, having loyalty to an employer and working so hard to, deliver results, working with multidisciplinary teams on projects that no one else wanted to take, and not having the support from an employer when it's something as serious as immigration. So that was something that was very discouraging, to the point where I was okay with giving up a decade-long career here and just moving back to India. So I think as employers, they really need to be mindful of, hiring immigrants and giving that opportunity as well. So I think, with related to immigration and actually having the support of your, direct leader and human resources, that has been one of the biggest obstacles for me. Other than that, being an only female leader within a team of large leadership, again, male dominated, navigating through different projects and challenges and letting people know that, yes, you know what, you need to respect me for my work. These are the unique skills that I bring to the table. Navigating through that was a huge challenge for me.
Any of us want to share for this question? Any obstacles or challenges that you faced, and is there something that you wish others would be able to help as well?
I'm also kind of in a situation like Priyanka. I am a DACA recipient, which I have a work permit that has to be renewed every 2 years. And I actually had to, I was let go of Trimedics because of COVID. My permit was delayed. And my manager, which I know Sheldon knows, David Reed, he tried to do everything for me to avoid getting let go. And then in the end, I still got let go. It took only like a month after my permit expired, but I know David Reed, he was my manager in New Mexico. He was trying to mentor me to eventually become a manager, since that's my goal. Finishing my school and all of that, I really wanted to explore that area, and I was unable to because of my work visa situation. And I feel like also, if we go back to bringing up age, I was running an account in Maryland for Airmark as a site lead, and when I pushed to get promoted to a supervisor position or even management, it was just getting delayed, and then it never happened. And that's when I decided to leave and finish my school, because I figured that not having a bachelor's degree was holding me back. And then I finished my bachelor's degree. I applied to so many places and then just kept getting rejection emails where I wouldn't even get interviews, and it was just so frustrating. And that's actually how I'm in this situation where I'm still not in management. I'm trying to get into management, but I just haven't had chances. Like some people, some companies won't even get back to you and say like, oh, sorry, you don't have the qualifications. Like it is so discouraging. I almost wanted to just leave the field, but I really enjoy it. So I'm giving it another shot with a different company, and hopefully things will be better for me.
Let's go on a record and say I wasn't the one to hold that up. but you know, like people like you, right? We get caught up in that, in the system, in the minutia of I'll just say politics, right? And how things work. You know, whether it's you know an Asian person, people of color, you know, foreigner, whatever it is. I think sometimes we have to sit back and use common sense, right? We have to start to use common sense, not a gender or a race or whatever that is, right? We got to use common sense. You got a good employee, you got to figure out how to keep that employee if that's where they want to be, right? You know, diversity, all of that comes into play, but we're looking for the right employee too, right? We don't want to. I know myself personally. I don't want to say, hey, they gave you that job because you're black. You know, I'll just say it, right? Like Reggie said, sometimes you just got to have those tough conversations. I'm going to bring it up. I don't want a job just because I'm black, right? I want a job because I earned it. Now, at the same time, while I have this position, you know, I learned a long time ago, people hire people who look like them. That's just the raw truth, right? People hire people who look like them. So for me, you know, I have to broaden that and look out at not just a male, a black male. I have to look at Asians. I have to look at, you know, people from Indian descent. I have to think about that, right? Like, you know, Fernanda, I do remember having that conversation. But then, you know, the politics and everything else got caught up in that. Is there a position for her out there? Absolutely. Has David forgotten you? Absolutely not. Right. We just have to work it out. And if we can move things to the side, you know, there is that life for her that she seeks. Right.
And again, from the DoD perspective, we don't have the same problems. We have the same situation scenarios, but don't have the same problems because the DoD does practice what we like to call legalized discrimination. We take metrics into how many women are in a position, how many African Americans, Hispanics, Asians in a certain position. And when it comes down for promotions, we look at all the fully qualified ones and we try to balance it out. So we force diversity. And force seems to be a harsh statement, but it seems to work for the military because you want to see people who look like you in positions of authority, leadership positions, so you can kind of not be stuck in a rut that says, oh, they're just going to pick their homeboys or the person that looks like him, or, you know, that's the girls' club, the boys' club. So they do have forced diversity in leadership positions, during promotions. Hence, we got, you know, like I said, the first female consultant. You know, she's definitely fully qualified. Me and her, we've been best friends for over 20 years, and she is definitely fully qualified. And sometimes we have personal conversations. I joke with her like, now you can't say it's misogyny anymore because you own the program. So, you know, because I can't live in her, like I say, I can't live in her skin or her gender because sometimes she feels that the boys' club does leave her out. But, you know, now she's in a position to kind of change viewpoints, kind of change the culture. And when you bring diversity in, that's why it's important to kind of force a melting pot culture to where I guess what America's supposed to be, or the world should be, to kind of get everybody to kind of grow together.
Right. That forced diversity, right? So I like that. I like that saying, right? It is forced, right? Because when you bring in one person or one group, you're putting out another, and that other group never feels like it's fairly done to them. Okay. That's just the way that it goes. You're saying, hey, I'm putting in a group of female workers for the VP level, right? Everyone else goes, oh, you're just going after that. And that's always going to be the conversation, right? If we all exactly look the same, and I'm going to bring Donna into this. Donna, how long have you been with GE?
26 years.
Okay, so Donna understands. So at GE, it used to be, they used to rank you. You get your A player, your B player, your C player, right? And even if you were an A player, they're going to rank the A's. They're going to break that group down too. So there's A, B, A, C in that, right? We do that as humans, period, right? So there's always going to be someone that is out. I think part of the fix is making those people that feel like they're out, making them feel or understand what the situation is that's going on. Right?
Really good points. I think another interesting incident that I was a part of was earlier on when I moved to the US and the huge culture shock. I found it very awkward on how to address people that were older than me. You know, coming from a culture where you're either calling them sir or ma'am for someone who's older than you, or you just call them uncle and auntie. One of my supervisors, my first supervisor, who was also a new leader and a very young one, she actually mistook that I was my, department director's relative because I had called that person uncle. But my perspective was, I'm Indian, that person's Indian, and I found it disrespectful to call them by their first name, which is the norm here. And my supervisor had me investigated with HR. And the funny thing that happened was the CMO and the CIO whom the HTM department reported to, they happened to be Indians as well. And the CIO had made a joke that, oh yeah, Priya's actually my cousin's daughter. We're related. All Indians are related. So there's been a lot of incidents, funny ones too, where not a whole lot of people are aware of these differences and also how it is within different cultures. And you look at it from a short sight and, basically mistake it based on your prior experiences. So in some cases, the forced diversity really works. And I think a safer way to enforce that should be made even in hospitals, especially in HTM as well.
Okay, lots of ground, lots of really important ground covered with that question, I think. So, I think this has come up a little bit. It's certainly an important part of all of this. Who do you look up to? And, as each of you has charted your career paths and you're all at different parts of your career, did you have a mentor along the way, and what was that like?
I can go first. Yes, formally as well as informally, I have had mentors, and that's led to building a circle of support within the HTM industry. In fact, I was one of the first mentees or proteges in the AAMI mentorship program back in 2014 or 15. And I had the opportunity to work with John Weimert, who was the director of Texas Children's, right after Samantha Jack left Texas Children's. So that person had learned from a female leader. He was very conscious of different, work environments and the diversity aspects. And he really mentored me with different scenarios and how to navigate through all of that. Aside that, there are just so many seasoned professionals within this industry that are looking to guide you, to train you, as well as offer their experiences and advice as well. So Carol Smith, she's a wonderful person. I'm lucky that she lives here in Phoenix, so I can actually meet her in person a lot of times, as well as both my previous leaders, Perry, Mike Bustiker, great leaders that have actually supported and guided me, also trusted my work, which was important to, moving across different ranks and such. At the same time, within industry, I think whether it's a new professional or a seasoned one, everyone's open to sharing information. At the same time, being respectful, being open-minded and willing to learn, the good and the bad of this job, that's going to be important for, to building that circle of support.
Yeah, from the military standpoint, you get the PCS every 2 years, so you get an opportunity to kind of see different people, different experiences over the period of time that you serve, and and you kind of have a mentorship. You have a squad leader. You got to have somebody who recommends you for promotion, recommends you for advancement, for officership or something. So the military has a mentorship program to where if somebody has problems or trouble, the mentor in the military is responsible for reaching out first to kind of somebody who has a relationship already. So again, that's almost like I said, a forced program, but it's almost part of the way that we nurture growth. So you get the new guy coming out of school, new gal coming out of school, and you assign them to somebody a little bit more experienced who kind of teach them the way. And again, like I say, when you PCS or move every 2 to 3 years, you get to see the good, the bad, the ugly. You get to kind of say, yeah, I want to be just like this. And you kind of build your toolkit on how you want to develop yourself a little bit different, I guess, than a civilian market, to where you see the same people every day unless you're moving. The military, you just going to move and see different people and have opportunities to have different type of mentorship.
I know when I was in the Army, one of my sergeants, she ended up being my mentor, and she was my mentor through the Army. And then getting out of the Army, she then moved into quality and now works quality with Pfizer. So she was actually really excited to be a part of the vaccine type thing. Then once getting out of the Army and going into GE, I have, met various leaders in which have guided me, through my career here. The person I look up to just so happens to be on the phone.
I think she means you, Priyanka.
Yes, Donna over here.
I'm looking at you, Donna.
But it's just one of those, I have had really great leaders and, great female leaders that I have been able to look up to and talk to, and, have been able to gripe to when I needed to, So they are out there. They are out there. There are some great mentors and leaders out there that are more than happy to, help you navigate the field.
Yeah. As I was listening to you guys talk, it's like what came to mind for me. And as I think about my mentors, it's like, they've all been kind of for a reason or a season, right? So I recall being early in my career, I really struggled to become a technician, right? So I didn't have all the tools. Like, they don't teach you tools in school, right? Like, but when I was doing my internship, I mean, those guys, they were seasoned and they took the time. I think that's the thing that I'm just so blessed that it really does take a special person to look at somebody who's struggling and step in that way that is helpful and pulls that person along to where they need to be. And then sometimes you kind of have to dope slap somebody too, right? Like if you do something that's out of bounds, you need to be told that, and you need to be told directly, and you can still do that in a mentoring sort of way, but it has to be very clear. And I do think back to the people who took the time. I think that's one thing that I've even carried forward, which is I will not take every meeting with every vendor, probably with every customer. But if anybody just wants kind of, hey, I want to bounce something off of you, or, I work over here in this division and I want to know what your world is like a little bit. You just have to make time for that. And I do believe that when you see somebody who is struggling, we're all very busy. We've got more things in a day than we can do. But it matters if you stop and you just, how can I help? Where are you at? What do you need? Just very easy things can really make a difference to people.
I think banking on that, I'm actually going back to a quote I read back in 2016. It was written by the then CEO of Intermountain, Dr. Charles Sorensen. And he said, when you're working in healthcare, people trust you with their lives. So you have to run your operations at a much higher standard than anyone else. Same thing goes for HTM, whether it's someone right entering the field or someone who's been at the job for a while. All of us have started with nothing. So it's important to take the time to teach what you know, to learn what you don't know, and just being honest with that, because that authenticity is what's going to take you a long way. So whether it's a new person or some intern coming to talk to you, or someone just working at a university wants to know about your field, being open-minded, talking about the pros and cons, what's really rewarding and satisfying about the job within HTM, all of those can help someone in some way or another. And that communication is very important.
So my next question is, what's your advice for those who are looking to enter into the HTM field or are looking to succeed in the HTM field?
I'll say do it. That's my advice. Do it. We need good people. And, I really am thinking hard about this self-selection. I think that people just say, I'm not a technical person, or I don't this, or I don't that, and they self-select themselves out of opportunities. And I every message I want to give to people in HTM is come aboard. Like look at us on this call here. We need people. We need more people. And really the skills that we need are people who can collaborate, people who care about the work they do. And the technical stuff, we can work with that, right? But just getting a good slate and good people, that's what we should be encouraging.
Excellent point, Donna. I think for people getting into the industry, obviously passion means a lot within HTM. And if you have the right traits or the behavioral characteristics, you want to serve people, you want to do something meaningful with your life, and you have those inbuilt traits, this is the right field for you. Skills, whether it's, human skills, technical skills, or even conceptual skills required for this field, those can be learned eventually. At the same time, you don't want someone repairing a ventilator without experience, but those are skills that you can learn, which was pretty much my experience, because I was comfortable working in a lab, writing programs for image reconstruction, but getting into the field, having hands-on experience on equipment that I had seen, in the design and development stage, those are skills that I learned. Or even, for example, writing policies, procedures, or cybersecurity. 10 years ago, I didn't know anything about it, but you do acquire those skills. You have ample opportunities to learn from people that are already good at that, or people that are willing to share information, which is available in this industry. So I think having the open mind and the mindset wanting to serve people, doing the right thing in healthcare and being part of that community and being engaged with those traits, this is the fantastic industry for someone that's entering the field.
And I would also say, instead of we do a bad job of just sitting around waiting for people to come into the field. I think we all know we have a very serious problem now and in future state with manpower to man the field. We got to do a better job at marketing, especially with the new AAMI and Department of Labor internship program. I think that's a perfect opportunity to kind of get our career out there and market it. Because I'm sure, like most of you, I didn't know until I sat in front of a computer as a recruiter, like, what's that? What's that job? And then, like I said, a lot of people just don't know we're there, like you said, until they need us. Like, where's med maintenance? But we have to do a better job in marketing and recruiting. That way we can kind of control how our career field is developed, and then we can kind of use that as a mentorship and training tool.
Um, so one advice or two advice that I have, especially as someone who's very new to the field, is that understand that you do belong no matter where you are, you know, where you come from, but you really do belong and you can make a difference, even if it's not for you in the moment, but for someone who's on the outside watching, trying to say, oh, what did she do to do that? Or how did she get there, right? And also, you know, learning to be a sponge. I heard that during my interview. I had no idea what it meant, but it's just like just learning how to like learn from everyone, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly, like just learning everything. And that kind of like puts you in a good way to like, you know, shape yourself to know how you want to move forward with your career as well. And learn the questions to ask, the right questions, and when to ask those questions as well. um so yeah, those are my advices.
My biggest thing of advice, take notes. Keep a notepad. I am queen of notepads, and having notes there whenever you're there to learn something, you might not soak everything up, but if you write it down, it's there. And that is one thing that has helped me throughout my career field, is taking notes and having something to refer back to. And networking. I love One thing I love about this field is the fact that if I don't know something, I know someone who does. You know, it's such a tight knit, world where if I have a question about something, I could just throw it out there on the military BMET site, or, just throw a question out there on, various BMET pages, or within my own company, even, just throw questions out there and somebody is always willing to help you. You know, we are always willing to help each other out, regardless of, working for different OEMs or vendors or anything like that. People are always willing to help each other out in this field. And that is definitely something that I have learned and cherished while being in HTM, is the sense of family. It is a sense of family.
I agree with Colleen, and that's something that has helped me throughout my career. Doing field service, I was able to meet a lot of leaders from Airmark and Trimedics, and I can say that I can call anyone from these past 7 years and they'll be willing to help. And like Renee said as well, I always want to be like, what are you doing? It doesn't even matter if I'll ever get a chance to touch it. I want to learn, and that has always stand out for me. They've always commented on that, and how it's just the skill that you're gonna maybe need in the future, but just having an idea, and not blocking yourself from, oh, I don't know what that looks like, or I don't know how that works, or I don't know, and then just reading everything and anything. And there's so many forums online where there's information available for us, and that has helped me.
So I know we're coming close to time, but my last question is actually what I always consider to be the most important one, which is there anything that that any of you would like us to know that maybe I haven't thought to ask you about?
I think we covered a lot of ground, Gavin. I think the only suggestion, if you will, would be to have a dedicated diversity and inclusion task force within AAMI, if that's not already there, and have some strategic as well as tactical action plans for something that we can do in the industry, because we have a lot of professionals from diverse backgrounds that with different skill sets and skill levels, and bringing that together to and aligning it with other strategic goals of AAMI, I think that would just be fabulous.
Thanks. Well, I'll definitely pass that on, and I don't know if there's an initiative that we currently have that's along those lines. If not, definitely something to talk about.
To kind of bounce off of that too, a lot of, especially maybe third-party employers, Priyanka and Fernanda were both saying problems with like immigration and things like that. You know, with the military, they have the VFW and various other organizations that help the military with any particular problems that they might have navigating through issues. You know, a task force that would help with diversity, but it might help smaller businesses with you know, navigating the world of immigration, DACA, you know, issues that pop up, you know, because smaller employers might not even know what to do when those issues pop up.
All right, great. Well, I want to thank everyone for for being on today's roundtable. We covered a lot of ground, hit a lot of really important topics, and I just want to thank everyone for sharing your perspectives. With AAMI members, with the field overall, and yeah, just thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. Nice to meet you. And thank you, Colleen, for pointing that out. I appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Oliver. Great talking to you and learning about your experiences. Have a great day. Thank you.